Good evening and welcome to Tinkering with Edkelar. This week I'm returning to my backlog of vintage test equipment. What I have here is a Tektronix 212 mobile oscilloscope. I got this ages ago, finished it not quite so long, but still a bit ago, but it was a nice little project to keep in the background for an easy video project when I got other things to do. Since the backlog is currently filling up again, here we go! Let's take a look at this cute little device. Is it just me, or does this have a bit of a Star Trek tricorder vibe to it? Anyhow, here's a quick rundown of the specs, so we know what to expect. The 212 seems to be from the early 1970s. The manual I found says first issue 1972. It has a true scope CRT, that means it creates high voltage internally. Speaking of internally, it has batteries built in. Yes, this is a true mobile device, not just a lug-along. And what can you expect for your 1970s money? 2 channels of a whooping bandwidth of 500 kilohertz. Yes, an entire half megahertz. So it clearly is designed for audio or close to audio applications. Even in the 1970s, RF was way beyond the megahertz range. So, let's have a peek inside. The unit arrived complete, but quite dirty and beat up. There is some major cleaning ahead. The 2 probes are hardwired, as is the power cord. The rear features nooks for winding up the wires with a set of elastic trim pieces. After discovering the hidden screws, the top of the case comes off easy enough. Battery packs. 2 of them even. And they both look like they have been modded or replaced with whatever was around before. As usual, removing the CRT first. Almost everything is connected with plugs. Only the external wires, the mains and probes, are soldered for whatever reason. The parts formerly known as elastic show signs of wear and tear. Mostly tear. The main control circuitry is mounted directly under the side panel. Removing the panel reveals some beautiful old-school circuitry, including some square IC packages, and also in the shielded input section some thick film resistors. Oh, turns out that the probe wires aren't entirely soldered anyhow. What I thought was a strain relief is actually a plug. The probes come with removable hooks and a single grounding wire. The hooks are a bit out of shape though. While the grounding wire is, at best, a template for replacements. Brrr, yuck! The CRT has a tinted cover and is stuck inside a shielding tube. After removing the grounding wire, we get a nice view of the actual tube. Cleanup time! The side panel was really dirty. When scrubbing along, I noticed that the lettering was disappearing. Yikes! I took a picture and went for broke, sanding off not only the dirt and scuff marks, but also most of the discoloration. Since it's black lettering on transparent, my usual water decals work quite well. Removing the switches and potentiometers for cleanup. Cleaning up the potentiometers. and also the switches. Soldering to that multi-layer PCB with massive ground planes was almost impossible. The input resistors didn't survive the desoldering of the switches next to them, so I had to replace them. Cleaning up the selection switches and adding some grease. I also need to modify it for use with European electricity. Thankfully, Tech has provided updated values for the relevant components, as the scope could be ordered with option 1 AC voltage 220 to 250 at 50 Hz. The input side is essentially what is known today as a capacitive dropper circuit. The power switch will parallel up two of them to provide more current when the thing is on. When the switch is off, It still connects the mains voltage to the rectifier and to the battery pack for charging. In that sense, the battery pack is also used to roughly regulate the voltage for the DC to DC converter that powers the scope. There was a replacement issued by Tektronix though. The original batteries were replaced with different ones, and that brought along a rectifier board. It was to put in place of the bridge rectifier in the mains input and contains a crowbar circuit that will kill, i.e. short out, the supply to the batteries if the voltage goes above 18 volts, give or take. I got myself the required components and used perfboard to make a fitting Homebrew PCB. The original layout is available, but making a PCB for this seems a bit excessive. For the battery packs, I got some new NiCad batteries, 10 AA cells. Since the wires are also done for, I remade them. I copied the original design, ground in the center pin, positive on both sides. That way the plug works either way. The battery packs came with foam for padding, which had to be removed, so I add new stuff. Assembling everything on the bench for a quick function check. Checking up on the supply rails to make sure that nothing blows up. The CRT has a heater voltage of 0.6 volts only. And finally, the CRT. I use some paper towels for improvised insulation. Power on, and nothing. Well, at least nothing visible. After a bit of troubleshooting, I sadly discovered that the CRT heater was indeed blown open. It must have experienced some overvoltage, or maybe it was dropped when on. Darn! I can open and reassemble quite a few things, but the tube itself? Nope! That's one point where I draw a line. And without the heater, this one is sadly degraded to ornamental use only. The annoying thing is that these are more than rare these days. Any and all supplies of these tiny scope CRTs have been snatched up to build CRT clocks. My best bet is to get a broken unit with a working CRT and swap it over. And indeed, I found one. Not exactly the same, but close enough. A 213 model. This one only has one channel, but also a DMM built in. It has almost the same CRT. Oh, and the circuit is supposedly broken. The new CRT shows a connected heater element, so I'll give it a try. Claws crossed. Yes, a trace. And after adjusting all the internal potentiometers, reassembly time. I put some insulation tape on the shield where my rectifier board might make contact. Wrapping that sandwich up again was no easy task. The new power cord was only slightly larger than the original, but that was already enough to throw off any existing arrangements. Since the formerly flexible parts are no longer available, I decided to cut off the torn bits, pretending that these had some open sections. At least this will prevent the tears from getting any longer. The grounding wire is just a simple nope. Replacements are around, but I like that the original had a very flexible and quite long wire. All replacements are short, better for higher frequencies, yes, but remember, 1/2 of a megahertz here. So I use the clips and splice in a new silicone wire. Let's view a set of waveforms to give it a try. Here's a 1 kHz sine, triangle, and a 100 kHz sine next to a 90 kHz TTL clock. I'd say it works. And that concludes this restoration project. A nice piece of history indeed. Will it be useful for the day-to-day operation? Not quite sure, with the limited bandwidth and such. But I'm still happy to have the option of a mobile CRT scope. I hope you enjoyed this episode. See you next time! I used some paper towels for improvised. Note to self, improvised is not the same as improved.